Hi, I'm Tracey Lightfoot with the Lightfoot Youngblood team at Worley and Associates. We've talked about in the past about the importance of your power team to have a successful investment portfolio. Today, I have a great asset to anyone's real estate portfolio, and that is Dwayne Falk with Table Rock Community Bank. We use personally Dwayne in our investment portfolios, and I want to share with you a little bit about what Table Rock Community Bank does in our community, as well as what they can do for you as an investor, or even anybody who's watching this who just wants to buy a residential real estate or a second home.
Tracey, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it. Just a little bit about myself. I've been in banking for now, I'm in my 21st year. I started in banking as a bank examiner. I started on the dark side. So now I've been in banking now for 15 years. I've been with Table Rock Community Bank now. I'm in my 4th year here as president and CEO of the bank. One of the things I want to tell you about Table Rock Community Bank is that this bank was established for the community. One of the things we pride ourselves is giving back to the community as well. And so we really feel like we're a part of the community, not only just as a bank, but as our individuals live here, we're a part of it, get involved and so forth. But as a bank, we offer pretty much about any product that you can think of from the standpoint of banking. You mentioned real estate. We work with individuals who are buying their first home. There's buying a lake house, buying a boat slip.
Yeah.
And the great thing about us is we work with you from depending on what kind of real estate you're getting into.
Sure.
We'll work with you from the start point of construction all the way to the end game.
Mm-hmm.
So we can take it from construction to permanent financing. And if it happens to be your 1 to 4 family, residence, then we can take it in the secondary market for you even. So we have all stages that we can take care of you, and we're with you from start to finish.
That's great. That's great. So let's talk about that a little bit, because a lot of our followers are investors who are building their portfolios, and they are looking at all different types of lending. They may be looking at a condominium. They may be looking at, as we know, supply and demand has been a big situation. We have a lot of building happening in our area because we have a lot of investors, but that demand is there to have some of these bigger vacation rental properties from the guest, and which is pushing that drive because we don't have enough inventory. So we're having to create our inventory in our market.
Correct.
So do you guys have any problems with the construction loan side of it? For example, some of them, or most of them, are going to be considered a detached condominium because they are in a condo project. So how do you guys work with that, or do you guys have any issues with that?
We really don't have any issues with that. The biggest thing that we would recommend is that early on in the stages, make sure you have everything together with that builder. The builder is key to it.
Sure.
He's another part of that team that you need to have everything and have that contract in place.
Sure.
When you're getting ready to, whether it's your home or a condo, a lodge,
Yeah.
or whatever it might be, just make sure you have everything planned out. It saves a lot of headaches and some extra money in the end if you have all that planned out.
Right.
But from the construction part of it, that really, it doesn't change that. We just, from the standpoint of getting started on the construction, we just need to know where you're going to build. Do you have a piece of property that you've selected? And then we just start gathering the information that we need to help determine whether or not we can approve you for financing.
That's awesome. And that's where anybody who's watching this in the investment world, you really need to have a realtor who understands that process, who can work with a bank, who has worked with a bank. Like, we work a lot with Table Rock Community Bank because they just offer so many options to our investors, and they're a great power team. But for example, if you're going to build a property, usually that is broken up to a couple of different contracts where we close on the land first. So we'll have a land contract, and we provide that over to the bank to start with that. But the bank, to be able to do their appraisal and do everything they need to do, they need a construction contract with the builder that will also say what that build price is going to be. They need the plans of the project so the appraiser can know what they're appraising. They need a schedule of value, which breaks down the whole cost of the property of the product. They also need a site plan to where your lot is going to be located. So that way you know
Correct.
that you are lending
Which one
on
we're
a
looking at.
property.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that take place and a lot of documents that need to be in place. So that's where the Lightfoot Youngblood team will come in as well, is we can partner with you as part of your power team. Make sure you have everything that you need for your transaction and work one-on-one with your bank. You choose Table Rock Community Bank and their commercial lending team, then we can make sure that they have everything and we can work with them directly and coordinate all of that with them for you. If an investor calls you up and says, I want to buy property in Branson, I'm working with Tracey and her team, what do you need from me? What do they need to be prepared for?
Well, the first thing is, we have the conversation on the telephone, kind of get an idea of what they're looking at. Mm-hmm. And then we begin the process of getting a secure email to them with the information that we need. Okay. And a lot of that information is going to be tax returns. Are you going to establish this in an LLC? Is it a current LLC? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be a newly established LLC? Mm-hmm. So we just need a lot of the documents to secure who's going to be the borrower. Mm-hmm. We need generally we start with about 3 years tax returns if we have never worked with you before.
Sure.
And then obviously if it's an LLC or a partnership, we need those agreements
sure.
to determine who has the ability to borrow and so forth. So
right.
We have just basically a commercial loan packet that we mm-hmm. put together that we just simply send you an email secured, mm-hmm. and then you basically just respond to those emails, mm-hmm. And that keeps that encrypted, and so that we can just pass that information back and forth. But the thing that we would like to say is, we will generally give you our cell phone number, so you're not calling
sure.
the bank, and you've experienced that yourself. Yeah. To where you're directly contact with our commercial lenders, mm-hmm. and that way, you literally get that personal service that we want to deliver to you.
Right.
And it gives us the opportunity to get back as quickly as we can with you. And our thought is we're going to get back with you that day. Sometimes it may be dinner time, but right. we're going to at least try to reach out to you.
Yeah.
And if that way we don't slow the process down. But as far as the documentation, it's just it's just pretty simple. You got a checklist that we send you, and
sure.
then we work with you, and we can even work with your CPA. We work with a lot of CPAs on getting some of that information together
right.
for you.
That's great. That's great. One thing that I've personally experienced that you may not think of is that when you have an LLC, if you have multiple partners in that LLC, even if you have the designated buying power, your other partners in that LLC may need to provide some documentation as well.
That's correct.
Because, they are lending to that full partnership.
Yes.
And so be prepared to do that as well. One thing that, I'm like, well, I live in the area, everybody knows who I am.
Sure.
I have to fill I have to fill out a personal financial right. statement. So be prepared to do that as well. Really, really know what your assets and your debt and all of that
Correct.
That are. And that is something that, especially if you have a large portfolio, your CPA can even help you fill that out. And I know that your team is very good at also partnering and helping someone if you don't absolutely understand a question that's being asked.
We would be happy to sit down with you and go over your balance sheet exactly.
Right.
And determine, is that a current asset, long-term liability, current liability. And like you said, it can become overwhelming if you're a larger investor and you have all of this real estate on how to put it into that system. Right. And the great thing about it is we try to work with you because if you actually have a system already in place, mm-hmm. we don't try to make you transfer that information over to mm-hmm. our documents. We'll actually accept that information as long as it's usable to us in our underwriting process, just to try to make it a little more simple for you.
Right.
Because there's no reason to have you move it over to another document if you already have it in place.
Sure.
So, and then we use that. And then, a lot of times, for example, especially this year, you're seeing a lot of individuals extend their tax returns,
mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of people who don't even have their 2019 tax returns completed. So
right.
a lot of times we may ask you for an interim statement of some sort mm-hmm. For your income information year to date. for 2020, and then
Yeah.
maybe even a profit and loss statement for 2019 as well,
Sure.
just so that we have something more current than 2018 numbers.
Right, right.
Especially if we're underwriting today.
And of course, in there's world situations, I'm sure you take some things into consideration if somebody's having a little bit more of a difficult year, but their past history is strong.
We put a lot of emphasis on trend analysis, actually.
Okay.
And that's why we look at 3 years is what we really like to get.
Sure.
Because everyone has a hiccup in life, whether it's in their business or whatever.
Right.
But what we really look for are trends. And, not necessarily just for the project itself, as far as whether it's a lodge, whether or not that's cash flowing, but what do you look like from a global standpoint?
Right.
And we really put a lot of emphasis on global underwriting now, from the standpoint of how strong are you also as a guarantor.
Right.
It's just like you said, there's multiple members of an LLC. Generally, all of those are going to be guarantors on that LLC
Sure.
loan as well.
Sure. And most LLCs, it's not uncommon to see a bank ask for personal guarantees.
Typically, you're going to see that all the time now.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
One other question I do have in regards to exchanges. We have investors who have properties all over the country. Maybe they have ran out of their tax benefits in, let's say, Arizona, for example, because they've owned that property for quite some time, and they're wanting to move their investments to keep those rate of
Sure.
returns higher for themselves. So we have a lot of clients coming to us that have sold their properties all over the country, and they're doing a like-kind 1031 exchange. And I'm sure you guys have seen quite a few of those.
We do. We see 1031s.
Especially if it's somebody's first 1031 exchange, what are you going to need from them in regards to that aspect?
Really, from the standpoint on our side, most of that's going to on just us knowing what's going to be coming into it from a capital injection standpoint.
Okay.
What kind of equity are they bringing in from the standpoint of the financing? But it's very important that they get early involvement with their CPA in that whole process,
Yeah.
just to make sure it flows properly and make sure they have everyone in place that needs to be in place. Because
Right.
that's what we come across sometimes as investors. They didn't have everything lined out properly.
Right.
And as you know,
Yeah.
the 1031 comes with, it can be costly, but it also has time constraints.
Right.
And those time constraints is generally what we see individuals have troubles with as far
Right.
as finding that like-kind property in
Right.
the 45-day period that they had to do so.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest part on our side, is just making sure that you've planned this out, and then at the time when we need to close, that money is available. So
Right.
that's really where it affects us on our side for underwriting
Sure.
purposes.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's great. For those of you who may be wanting to do a 1031 exchange or have, talked to a few people about it, I definitely recommend that you get connected with a third-party intermediary. We do have vendor lists that have a few that our clients have personally worked with and have give us names to. I personally have not used them, but they have been highly recommended. A lot of folks in our area have used them. That third-party intermediary is really going to break down the rules and the regulations and everything. Your CPA is going to be able to analyze for you what that tax benefit is. Does it make sense for you to pay for the 1031 exchange?
Correct. That's a very good point.
Because you may have a property, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
It might be better for you to pay the gain than it is for you to exchange that and save the tax. So we can help you guys also figure that out, get you in touch with the people that need it. And if 1031 and exchange is in your realm of things to do, then we also get you connected with the lender. So that way, all parties, they have moving pieces, but it's all coordinated very seamlessly.
Exactly. And a lot of times you'll hear them referred to as a facilitator.
Right.
A lot of the times. And, they do give you that opportunity to look at the options. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it does, because, you can save your taxes now and then also
Sure.
defer your gains to a later period of time.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and plus it allows you to, come in with that. You have that equity position, which the banks are always looking for.
Sure.
In that, and you can grow that. And
Of
so
course.
it really allows you to not only expand your portfolio, but maybe move up to that next level as
Yeah.
far as property size and investment.
Yeah. Well, and it makes you a stronger borrower.
It does.
You know, as a guarantor,
Sure.
you're definitely show strength in being able to have those equity positions.
Exactly.
So the market today is, as we know, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
So how are you guys working through the market, and how are the interest rates right now? I mean, how do things look?
Really, things look pretty good since about
Yeah.
June. I mean, you know, they're obviously there for a while in COVID-19 and so forth. Things slowed down in that April,
Sure.
May period, but in June we were very pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
that the turnaround on a lot of the bookings and so forth for our nightly rental customers and so forth. But as far as my loan staff, I've killed my loan staff, I believe, because we've been so busy.
Right.
And you know, but that's a good thing. And one of the things we do is we have a good professional staff, and they know what they're doing, and they're good at getting things out and working
Right.
through deadlines. And we have to work through deadlines just like yourself.
Yeah.
Because we do want to meet as many of those closing dates as possible.
Sure.
But you know, you have a lot of options out there right now from the standpoint of you really kind of have to define what your strategy is as an investor, determining what product matches you best. You know, are you looking at a shorter term, 3 to 5 year time frame? You're looking a little longer. Are you needing the cash flow to where you need to look at a 25-year amortization? The typical's 20. But a lot of people now like to extend out to that 25,
Sure.
just just for cash flow purposes.
Right.
But the other thing you want to look at is where we are on the interest rate cycle. You know, just last year, we were over 5%,
Right.
5.25%, 5.5%. So we've dropped.
I think I paid 6.
Okay. So you know, in just the last year, you know, you've seen interest rates drop 200 basis points or more,
Wow.
approximately. So
That's incredible.
You know, right now you would think we're at the lower end of obviously the interest rate cycle. So you know, when you're looking to get a product from the bank and looking at how long am I going to try and get that fixed based upon my investment strategies, because sometimes you can work with the bank and get a lower period of fixed rate.
Sure.
Because you're not planning on holding on to it, you might be able to get a better rate at that point.
Right.
But most of the banks, you know, are looking around that 3 and 5 year time frame. Obviously, the banks are on the other side of that.
Sure.
And they've got to protect themselves as well from the standpoint of interest rate increases. So you can look at a fixed rate balloon. You can look at ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages. It could be a 3.3 ARM. It could be a 5.2, to where it's fixed for that period of time. And then if it's every 3 or so or 2 years, it reprices again. So you really kind of got to look, because interest rates can move significantly.
Sure.
Yeah, not, you know, typically the Fed tries to keep a more stable type move in that, but obviously we've seen in the last year they react pretty quickly when they need to, and that can have a big change. It's like you said, you were paying possibly 6, and now people are paying 4, 4.25, 4.5,
That's
just depending
huge.
upon where they're at, and it can make a big difference on a $600,000, $1 million investment.
Right.
So those are a lot of things you really want to talk to your banker about. And we go through all of that with our customers. We try to make sure we know what their plan is, what their long-term plan and short-term plan, so that we can put a product together that fits their needs, and then we can take care of them that way.
Yeah. And one thing that I think everybody needs to realize is that just because you pull something up and it says interest rates are XYZ today, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the rate you're going to get. It also depends on that individual lending ability, credit scores, all types of stuff on where that interest may land.
Exactly.
I mean,
and the other thing too is that depending on what product you're looking at, if you're looking at a residential home, residence, or a second home, you know, you really got to read the fine print there too, because there could be points involved too to get that rate that low. But if you're looking at it on the investment side of it, on the commercial loan aspect of it, it depends upon, you know, we got to put you through the underwriting process, of course.
Sure.
And depending upon where you come out in that process is really where we're going to develop where do we feel comfortable from the standpoint of offering a fixed rate or an adjustable rate mortgage, and at what price. Because ultimately you do want a price to risk. And, you know, but at the same time, you've got a competitive market too.
Yeah.
And so all of those things come into play. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do our best to compete, and also at the same time to deliver the customer service that we actually feel adds to whatever you're getting from the standpoint of term and rate.
Right. That's awesome. I really, really appreciate you joining me today and talking to everybody out there about banking and the importance of having a lender on your power team. Some of the things that Table Rock Community Bank offers. If somebody wanted to reach out with you, and your commercial team, how would they do that?
Yeah, actually, you can reach out to us through our website, or you can just give us a call.
If you would like to reach one of my agents on the power team or myself, Tracey Lightfoot, you can reach us at bransonhomefinder.com, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.